This is wrong. What is worse is the guardrail. What is the guardrail to protect the bank? One of the guardrails was the law, the regulation. The government flaunted the law with impunity. It was not Andy that was the prime minister, not Tevin Andrew, not Ron, not Kieran James, a lawyer. An individual who claimed that he is a successful lawyer. An individual who claimed that he had deep pockets and a lot of contacts. When consulted Grenadians on the ground, they said the majority of lawyers supporting Deacon Mitchell. That is why he claimed that he have contacts. He flaunted the law with impunity. Because the fact that he was a lawyer, the Bar Association, the Attorney General should have called the individual and said, no, this is a conflict of interest. This is beneath your profession. This is going to question the quality of your character. You ought not to do that. The Bar Association ought to be a guardrail. The Attorney General had to be a guardrail. Richard Duncan had to be a guardrail. Why Richard Duncan had to be a guardrail? Richard Duncan is no ordinary public officer. He himself was the manager of a bank. He himself was well qualified to be the governor of the ECCB. He himself advocated walking the straight and narrow. Richard Duncan was given the job as the head of FROC during the NNP period. Some NNP bar. They say how Keith Mitchell and Gregory Bowen could give a known NDC, somebody who have no axe, who have axe to grind with NNP, to put him in charge of FROC. And I understand. They said, yes, it is better we put a known member of the opposition in charge of monitoring the NNP government finances. That was a whole different approach to management. And remember, I said, in the last 10 years, I said before on a different program, that was the best approach I saw to governance. So Richard Duncan was so respected by NNP, even if he was a vicious opponent of NNP, he was given the position to be in charge of FROC. And the laws, the discipline was legislated. So Deacon Richard Duncan, the Bar Association, the Attorney General, and others in Grenada had to nudge Deacon and say, you're breaking down the guardrail. We have to be very careful as a people, you know. If you destroy the guardrails, it could come back and haunt you. And where GDB was concerned, the Grenada Development Bank, that guardrail was contaminated. Look at what going on in the National Lottery. Because of what went on in GDB, the Grenada Development Bank, and Grenadians remained silent, and the guardrail was broken down, the corrupt atrocities that took place in National Lottery went on. One of the ministers felt so hot, he was so disturbed, he fired the manager of National Lottery. It is rumored on the ground that the Prime Minister ordered that firing be evoked. They take back, rescind, I like the word rescind, but take back sound more practical. They take back the fine and they continue to practice more corruption in National Lottery. When the minister continued to object, he was fired. It's a long, long time in history I've not heard that. Somebody who objected on wrongdoing was punished for objecting. Look at what we're hearing in gravel and concrete. More corruption in gravel and concrete. These are guardrails. When mega institution, from a Grenadan perspective, the GDB Bank, National Lottery, and gravel and concrete, you're hearing so much of acts of corruption existing there. It would have a rippling effect in all other aspects in our country. We Grenadians must not let the guardrail fall. Look at the Public Service Commission. We have been hearing a number of instances where the Public Service Commission is playing politics. It is in the interest of all and sundry to know about the Public Service Commission. I think it's a five, I'm not certain. I'm hearing it's a 5-man committee. The Teachers Union have one representative. The Public Workers Union have one representative. Then the governor established 3 representatives. So a 5-man committee. So the unions cannot take out themselves from what's going on in the Public Service Commission. Very early, the Labour Commissioner was fired. The very commissioner that the NDC put. And they were all in praise of the capabilities of the young person, of that woman. But when they did not get the woman to do what they want to do, they fired the Labour Commission. And it means that the Public Service Commission were taking direction from the politician. We saw the Public Service Commission and we heard tampering with the jobs of a number of senior people in the community. Now, when senior policemen cannot depend on the Public Service Commission to protect them, our country must speak. And we must ask, where is the guardrail? And bearing in mind that the trade union have 2 representatives on the Public Service Commission, it means that they are contaminated. You see, in a small country like ours, we must not let evil grow. Man is evil. And you always have to remind man to walk the straight and narrow. This is a good period, you know. This is the Easter. In the next few hours, Catholics and maybe Lutherans and Anglican will start their Easter vigil. It's a good time to look inwards and understand what's going on. Don't put your hand on your head and bawl later on. The writing is on the wall. Corruption is going to be abound because we let the guardrail down. You have to avoid letting the guardrail down. And it seems as if the Public Service Commission is compromised. We have to be careful. We have been hearing a lot of rumors and speculation on the ground, and we have no reason to doubt it. We can't say conclusive that is a fact. But because the government have a policy of information based upon need to know, because the government is doing everything possible to mar and intimidate radio personalities, makes some of the rumors and speculation look more accurate. We are hearing a lot of information of the ground of bribery. Bribery. But the Prime Minister himself seems to give Grenadians the view that he liked bribery. When he paid $1 million, that the court say he is not legally authorized to pay. When he was asked why, he said it's for good relationship. Anytime you pay money for good relationship, it's bribery. If you pay money for sex, it's prostitution. If you pay money so you're going to get people to have good relationship with you, that is bribery. Now, the Prime Minister is not Tevin Andrew. The Prime Minister is not the James daughter. The Prime Minister is not Ron. The Prime Minister is a lawyer. So he understood clearly what is bribery. We heard and we spoke about it repeatedly that gifts was given to the Prime Minister and other ministers of government way in excess of $30,000 US. Now, if a politician is receiving gifts of this magnitude, what are the gifts for? Why are you giving them this gift? It is easy for us to conclude to bribe them, so you will get something greater in return. Any gift of such economic weight that is given to a politician, that gift should be surrendered to the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission is another guardrail that has been established to encourage our politicians to walk the straight and narrow. The Prime Minister of Grenada seems to have contaminated the Integrity Commission. In other words, they're operating at his whim and fancy. They are contaminated. They are of no use. They corrupt. And that is why the government could receive all these expensive gifts. And the Integrity Commission sees nothing wrong with that. We have heard stories where ministers cannot be bothered with reporting to the Integrity Commission. Our people have to speak up. The trade union seems to be contaminated. The Public Service Commission seems to be contaminated. The GDB Bank have been violated and flaunted. The National Lottery and gravel and concrete. The Chamber of Commerce, well, they never bother much with other people's business. The Chamber and the private sector generally are preoccupied with their profit. They only bother when they are one government, so they shouldn't pay tax. So one have to ask the question, what is the role of the Integrity Commission? Is it established to act as a rubber stamp to legalize illegality? Because if the government is accepting gifts and the Integrity Commission sees nothing wrong with that, then it is just another rubber stamp. We have said before that this government is perhaps the worst government we have ever selected in the country, or is definitely the most corrupt government since 1967. We did not select the revolutionaries, those who committed the coup d'etat and survived for 4.5 years. They were criminals. But it was not easy for us to ascribe to them corruption. They did what they did in the name of ideology. But we did not see glaring evidence that it was for personal benefit. This group of individuals we have here, all their role and actions is for personal benefit. The government set up a pension scheme. People call it by different name. We believe that the government is convinced that that scheme will bust. So they don't want to anger the judiciary. So they decide to bribe them. They want the judiciary to be indifferent. So while the judiciary is expected to benefit for the pension scheme, they do not have to contribute. That is one of the worst acts of corruption I see. Members of the judiciary should object. In the name of integrity and good character and independence of the judiciary, you were compelled to object. It doesn't mean that you could have stopped the government from doing it. But you should let the record show, in the name of morality and integrity and good governance, that you objected to that contaminant placed in front of you. History will never pardon you. It doesn't matter how intelligent you believe you are. People are going to always look at you as a corrupted bunch. The government shower molasses in front of you, and you accepted it. The government knows that you can't put salt to hold fly. You have to put molasses. Fly fast. If you put salt, one of them might bounce and fall in it and dead. So what the government doing? They know that the scheme that they put up will fail. So they want you to be indifferent. They don't want you to object. So you stand to benefit, but you did not take any risk involved in it. That is a blatant act of corruption. I did not expect Tevin Andrew or Ron perhaps to see that, because they're behaving like never see come see. The young, fully energized, lack institutional knowledge, but not members of the judiciary. This is clear as day. It's a gross act of corruption. How could we let our guardrails down? When Grenadians let the guardrails down, it will cause a rippling effect, and corruption will be abound in all sectors of the society. You heard me on very many occasions, in different medium, spoke about a third party directing our foreign policy. That, I believe, is an abomination. Grenada became independent 50 years ago plus. We were responsible for our internal economy or internal affairs since 1967. But 7th February 1974, we became totally independent. We were responsible for foreign affairs. We became member of the United Nations, the OAS, Pan American Health Organization, and a number of independent organizations that Montserrat can join today. We were responsible for external affairs. So we asked the question repeatedly, who is the third party directing our foreign affairs? We heard the foreign minister on the Samoa agreement crying out that this agreement contravenes the Constitution, evoking revolutionary fervor and speaking against it vehemently. We heard the Prime Minister establishing the fact that he did not study the document. He did not even read the document. And he was not able to respond to the document per se. So he responded to what a third party said, a priest from Trinidad, about it. That's when the Prime Minister said morality is a private thing. So who authorized the signing of the document? The government never recalled the ambassador. The foreign minister did not authorize the signing. One would have to assume that the Prime Minister did not authorize it, unless he was blatantly lying and deceiving the public in front of the foreign minister's face. Because the foreign minister evoked so much passion to speak, one would assume that there is a higher power than the Prime Minister in Grenada. And the Prime Minister of Grenada is just a rara. And a third party directs him on issues. When the Minister of Foreign Affairs was removed from the agenda to speak on Independence Time, it could well have been an after fact that some party direct the Prime Minister to remove the Foreign Minister to speak. We saw the emotion displayed on the media in interview when the Minister of Foreign Affairs had to speak on this issue. He preferred to fake choke. And he was in the environment of his own people, Mr. Forrester. We in Grenada cannot say we don't know, We have experience that other countries in the Caribbean don't have. We had Julian Fedor. Some of us know why Julian Fedor failed. It was always said that the Lagunas turned against Fedor. So they were supposed to lead the militia group in St. George's. They were supposed to lead the militia group in St. George's. So after Fedor took over Battle Hill, not Battle Hill, in Grenville, forgot the name. After he took it over, and he got word from St. George's that the Lagwin had turned on him, he realized he failed. So he decided to make it back. The Governor General then, Ninian Home, not the Governor General, the Governor. We didn't have Governor General yet. Governor General come after independence. Ninian Home was in Parklet. He afraid to go over the hills. Just as when Bishop come, Bishop afraid to go over the hills. He afraid to go assassinate him on the hill. So the Governor General decided, the governor then, Ninian Home, decided to go over the Belvedere. And Fedor hold him and kill him. Fedor and the group. We have had the conflicts of 1951. The British sent 2 battleships in Grenada to quell the trouble. We have had the problems for 1974 independence, brimstone and fire. We have heard the noise to introduce St. George's University. Then we had the 1979 overthrow, the coup d'etat. And 1983, we witnessed the carnage, the brutal execution of Maurice Bishop and several members of his cabinet, including pregnant Jacqueline Creff. So Grenada is no tin horn. We're supposed to know that we should not let the guardrails down. There was no one to speak up in 1983 when the 2 warring factions, the Codites and the Bishopites, had their guns drawn. There was no mediating voice in the country. The Bar Association don't have a history of settling any issue or interfering in any issue of national proportion. There were people who was praying for somebody to intervene. I remember some individuals believe the only 2 people in Grenada that could intervene in that conflict between the Bishopites and the Codites was Gloria Payne Banfield and another permanent secretary. She name always slipped from me. So why is it we watching the guardrails again in Grenada is failing? Why are we allowing the guardrails to fail? There are voices that could speak. Issues that's supposed to be settled without much fuss are turning to be mountains. Now, how in God's name could you support the top members of the government to be agents selling passports on the international market? That is a clear case of conflicts. If the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, Nazim Bok, Andrea, and others are agents selling passports, they are the powerhouse in NDC. Then who is going to do the check and balance? Who is going to say no? All of them so greedy for money. The Prime Minister cannot even rest in Grenada for 2 weeks. A man disagree with me. You know, I say, well, the Prime Minister can stay in Grenada for 2 weeks. He tell me, no. Every 15, 16 days, he just come back. Not 2 weeks, man. He say, you're exaggerating. Every 15, 16 days, he just come back. From one section of the world to the others. Africa and the Middle East. Who is going to guard the guards? Why are we letting the guardrails fall in the country? I heard Jenny Simon repeatedly crying out about the issue with the water in Grenada, in Carriacou. Warning the government that if you don't do something now, when the dry season coming in, we're going to have problem for water in Carriacou. It seems the government is so preoccupied with a personal cause that they don't have time to do the political work. They contaminate the public officers, the public service, and they have to micromanage, and they don't have the skills or the time. They don't even have time to learn on the job. So we come into the end of April. June too soon. July standby. August commit must. September remember. October all over. Although the weather system is changing, but the rainy season starts in June. Why we have so much people in Carriacou still? Houses that was not addressed. The question was not money, because you got $118 million. You have not spent yet from the insurance. 14 days after. Yes, we are aware of the fact that you all were political neophytes. But even that is the case. One would expect a better performance, even if you was just secondary school children. Have we abandoned the guardrails? Have we abandoned the guardrails? Where are the individuals in Grenada who was preoccupied with accountability and transparency and good governance? They was walking around making mountain out of molehills in the previous government time. Where are they? They have a role in the community. These people kept the NNP on their toes to the extent that discipline was legislated. Government legislate discipline. And as a result of the legislation of economic discipline, for the first time in history, this government came to power and was satisfied with the economic power of the Treasury. They say the Treasury pregnant. They laugh, they jump up, they smile. This took place because of the power of frack. Richard Duncan led it on some occasion. And the government legislate discipline. And the humility, the frugal lives that the previous government led. The freedom of the press, the readiness they had to interact with the public providing information. They were prepared to walk the straight and narrow. And as a result of that, you were left with a pregnant treasury, a very high-performing Ministry of Finance. The police was well respected throughout the Caribbean for the high rate of solving crime, the manner in which they were able to handle conflict, and government pharmacies and other ministries starting to be more productive. This government came into power and started to contaminate the institutions. Every aspect of life was touched. Where are the guardrails? Grenadians, let not the guardrails fail. When the guardrails fail in your country, you have more social decadence. You have corruption, a rippling effect downwards. If your leaders are so callous, so indifferent to practicing corrupt acts, then what is going to happen to us as a people? Where will it end? Throughout the creek and cranny of Grenada, you're hearing accusation of corrupt individuals. In the democratic process, we are responsible. I'm hearing some stories about the electoral office now. I can't believe some stories of the electoral office. The government felt it was necessary to change the public officer that was in charge there and bring in another person who is perceived to be their man. Why didn't you take a cue from NNP? NNP had Richard Duncan, a known individual who would never support NNP, in charge of FRAC, because they wanted it to be accountable. They say, yes, we want to do right. You want to do right. So we're not afraid to put our enemy in charge of the economic discipline. That's a government that want to do right. The NDC want to do wrong. They're planning to do wrong. How do you justify the quantity of lies told by this government? How do you live with it? Those lies are so glaring that even if you're blind, you could see them coming. They have been done with so much regularity that the governments now have to be considered as habitual liars. Why is it the Prime Minister and more of his ministers are telling so much lies? The Prime Minister is a lawyer. He's a man of high learning. And he knows it is against the law to lie. Yet, the man have to be considered pathological, a pathological liar, a habitual liar. Every time. There's so much evidence and clips are being played. And they still lying. You saw the Minister of Agriculture with the poor farmers. They still lying. Where are the guardrails? Where are the individuals before that was jumping up for the farmers? These farmers need solidarity. Where are those farmers that are prepared to provide solidarity for the Rastafarians and the other individuals who are working in Maribor? Where are they? This is what I speak about when I speak about guardrails. You might have individuals in the community, and sometimes they are orphans, but the behavior is seriously influenced by the community in which they function. People encourage them to be respectful, to dress properly, to go to school, to do well. And irrespective that they were orphans, based upon the community they're from, they can do very well. Academically, multi-talented, multi-skilled. Because they are guardrails. In today's dynamic, we have the television and CT scans and cameras all about the place. So since you walk out from your bedroom, you're in the public domain. Or since you walk out from your home, you're in the public domain. And whatever you do could end up on camera. Now, where are the guardrails? We're almost to the end of the game?
Yes.
Yes, we're almost to the end of the game. And remember, the topic we had, Grenadians, let not the guardrails